Zack Snyder's wife, Deborah Snyder, comes forth with the revelation that she too had gone to the higher ups regarding Joss Whedon's alleged misconduct on the 2017 Justice League set. And also, let's talk about the future of the DC cinematic universe with Justice League Snyder Cut coming out. And what exactly does that speak to when it comes to, I don't know, getting the DC cinematic universe together? Hey, Twisted people, it's your Twisted Woman here, Chauncey K. Robinson. And today, you guessed it, or you heard it because I just gave an intro about it, I am talking about Justice League, the upcoming movie that was the other movie in 2017, and what it means for the DC cinematic universe. And more so, some of the shenanigans that have gone on regarding the 2017 version, and also the talk around the upcoming, at the time of this recording, the 2021 Justice League movie, and what it means for the future of the DC cinematic universe. Justice League producer Deborah Snyder, who also happens to be Zack Snyder's wife and partner when it comes to the creative world of all the cool movies they have made thus far, came forward in a recent insider interview with the revelation that she had basically gone to the higher ups regarding Joss Whedon's conduct on set. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention to the story surrounding Justice League 2017 and just the Justice League narrative movie in all its entirety, then you may already be aware of the fact that Joss Whedon, who ended up taking over for Zack Snyder when he had to step away from the project due to the death of his daughter, basically, there were a lot of allegations and revelations that came forward regarding Joss Whedon's conduct on set. Not to mention how when the movie actually came out, many people felt like he butchered what was Zack Snyder's original vision of what the Justice League movie was supposed to be. One of the key figures playing a big role when it comes to calling out Whedon has been Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in Justice League. Ray Fisher went on record, basically coming forward, pushing for an investigation by Warner Brothers into Whedon's conduct and those who he felt enabled Whedon's conduct, and came out basically saying that Whedon's behavior was gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. So one could argue that a reckoning has been coming forward in regards to Joss Whedon and his behavior, alleged behavior when it comes to his conduct on set of many of the projects that some of us have know and love. Like, I know myself as a Buffy fan was very disappointed to hear about the misconduct and the issues that a lot of the women actresses had to go through on set. But believe Fisher or not, another revelation has come forward in the form of Deborah Snyder, Zack Snyder's wife, but also a juggernaut in her own right in being Zack Snyder's partner and them putting out so many awesome projects for us to consume, came out in an insider interview basically revealing that she too had reported Joss Whedon for some alleged misconduct on set regarding one of the actors. Deborah Snyder says in the insider interview, "There was one incident I was aware of that I had reported back to the studio right before the movie came out. I went to the higher ups that someone came to me about Joss. I think it was resolved in a way that the person was happy with. That's all I can really say." Many who have read this interview are basically putting the pieces together to surmise that it was probably Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman herself, who had gone to Deborah Snyder about Joss Whedon's misconduct, because Gal Gadot had actually come out also saying that she too had had an incident with Whedon on set, but that when she went to the higher ups, that it was resolved in a way that she was satisfied with. Now, I think this is an important revelation that we have to take into consideration when it comes to the overall vision picture of not only the DC cinematic universe, but the narrative surrounding Justice League. Now with the Snyder Cut being released by HBO Max, a 4-hour-long movie that very much puts Zack Snyder back at the helm of putting forward the vision that he had originally hoped for with Justice League, this has put in many people's minds what is going to be the future of the DC cinematic universe, and if Justice League Snyder Cut is going to be considered the canon. I think the reason why it's important to highlight the revelation that came from Deborah Snyder is because of my argument that I really do think it is in Warner Brothers and the DC cinematic universe's best interest to create it so that the Snyder Cut Justice League is the true canon, and that also it connects to returning to the Snyderverse, as it's being called, when it comes to the cinematic universe overall. Because in explaining why the Justice League Snyder Cut has to be the canon, you can't cut out the reason why the Whedon cut version, whatever they want to call it, was so tainted and has very much tainted what could be a very cool cinematic universe if given the time. With Justice League Snyder Cut coming out, many people are wondering if the 4-hour epic movie is going to be considered canon, aka basically the real narrative when it comes to the future of the DC cinematic universe and overall the cohesive plot of all of the movies that we've seen thus far, except for a few outliers here and there. And it would appear that in a recent interview from the lips of the man himself, Zack Snyder, that so far it would be the case that it's not going to be considered canon. During an interview with podcast DC Cinematic Cast, Snyder explains, "It's interesting, sort of in the DCEU, or whatever it's become, that trilogy, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League, sort of insulates itself in some ways. It becomes like its own thing now. I famously said, and it's true, this isn't controversial, but this film, My Justice League, is not canon, right? Canon for Warner Brothers is the Joss Whedon version of Justice League. That's, in their mind, that's canon. And what I'm doing is not. Everything I'm doing is not. So it's just interesting, that relationship. And I'm fine with it because I feel like the only way that I could have made this film with autonomy was because of that. Because of me admitting and agreeing to the fact that this is not canon." Now, of course, many fans are not taking that lightly when it comes to Snyder somewhat confirming that the only way he was going to be able to really realize his vision of Justice League was to basically tell the studio that, oh, it's not canon, so they wouldn't be necessarily so hands-on, aka micromanaging him when it came to this story. Sometimes when the studio gets involved, we've seen issues where the story doesn't always get told the way that it can, and it's cut and slashed for quote unquote more marketability and whatnot, and at times gutted. And I think in a way that's what we saw with the 2017 Whedon version, where certain things were done, such as the extensive cutting of Cyborg's role in the story. That's one of the things we heard about. A little bit of the objectification of Wonder Woman as a woman, that weird kind of black exploitation thing that Whedon had Cyborg do a booyah. Like, what's that? Why not just say dynamite? You get what I'm saying? So things like that were happening. And what we got actually wasn't some massive box office hit, right? The budget for it was around $300 million, and it made a little bit over double that, which in superhero movie terms could be considered, and for the most part was somewhat considered, a flop. So the question then is, why does the studio feel the need to hold on to something that wasn't even that well received across the globe? So he created the basis of the DC cinematic universe that we have now. And because of that, one can argue that the 2017 Justice League that really was not his vision does not actually connect to the overall cohesive atmosphere that he had been originally creating. I mean, you have this 4-hour epic movie that now has a different beginning and ending than the 2017 version, not to mention the other characters that have appeared throughout. And a lot of money was spent on some of these reshoots and the special effects and things like that. Why go through all of that and not say that it's canon? That's a lot of investment for something that is a one-off. That's why I don't necessarily believe it completely. I think in the initial sense, what we got from Snyder was his telling of the fact that the reason why he was able to do it in the first place was for him to agree that it wasn't canon. But this is the thing, money talks. And if this version of the Justice League does as well as it is projected to do when it comes to being on the streaming service and the talk and the excitement around it, then I think the studio may relent, and they'd be smart to do so. Another reason is because we need some cohesiveness when it comes to the cinematic universe. I think this is what those of us who have been fans of DC Comics and many of the movies for some time have been saying, for better or worse. Now, I say this as someone who didn't particularly care for Batman versus Superman. I really did enjoy Man of Steel. So I'm not necessarily like, Zack Snyder can do no wrong. Not at all. But what I will say is that he had a vision. The thing is, though, if you are even going to have a blip of the success that Marvel Cinematic Universe has had when it comes to the cohesive storytelling, you have to have a plan. And that plan should probably come from a singular vision, right? As opposed to one person doing this and then someone else comes along and say they wants to do that, and never the two shall meet. So what you have is a whole bunch of different narratives going around that, to all of us who are watching from outside of the studios and stuff, we're thinking, what is actually happening? Do they have a plan? Because right now it's looking like they don't. So overall, my thoughts are that there's been one too many revelations regarding the 2017 Joss Whedon version of Justice League to continue to hold on to it for dear life by the studios. And also, we need to return to the Snyderverse, not because it's perfect, but because it's a good start. So make it canon and let's move forward with some of the awesome stories that are still yet to be told. Let me know your thoughts. What are your thoughts? Do you think the Snyder Cut version needs to be canon and we need to throw out whatever that was in 2017? Let me know. Comment down below. And also be sure to subscribe so that you're the first to know when I post my videos. Thanks for watching.